next talk is going to be about covering the future of Aave Grants DAO. So we have Shreyas, who is going to be talking about all the things that are happening in the Aave Grants ecosystem and how everything is set up. So without further ado, let's welcome Shreyas.
Hey everyone, can everyone hear me well?
Everything is great.
Great, I'm just gonna share my screen. Let me know if you can see this.
We're all set?
Awesome. So yeah, really excited to be here. I think I started my full-time crypto journey actually with an ETH Global hackathon, building something on Llama. So it's really cool to come back and speak here. And I think we've seen this with Aave Grants too, but there's an amazing influx of developers and talent here, and it's a really amazing onboarding experience for someone into Web3. So really stoked to be here. I'm the program lead for Aave Grants DAO, and I also am the founder of Llama, which helps DAOs and DeFi protocols manage their treasury. So one thing I thought would be interesting to start with is something that influenced my thinking of crypto protocols and ecosystems. And this was a post by Lakshman Shankar from the Ethereum Foundation, where he compared crypto ecosystems to natural ecosystems, and he was talking about how biodiversity is just as important in crypto ecosystems as it is in natural ecosystems, and that the reason why Ethereum as an ecosystem is kept alive is because of this constant influx of new developers and builders in this platform, and when that dies and when the sort of genetic variation of the Ethereum ecosystem is stopped, Ethereum will die. And I think of other protocols similarly, where ecosystem development is sort of at the heart of really what makes a protocol in a community thrive, and ecosystem development includes sort of this community that's building the protocol, and all these other like integrations and support and culture and a bunch of other things around the protocol. So that's influenced, I think, how I've thought about the mission at Aave Grants and how we approach it, which is building this thriving ecosystem of contributors building on Aave. And we are a team of 9 reviewers plus 2 to 3 other folks on staff, and we basically provide projects, grants to projects and ideas and community events that benefit the Aave ecosystem. And we're quite open-minded to what that could be. We have a list of RFPs on our site, but we're very open to people coming up with creative ways that they can have benefit the Aave ecosystem and the broader sort of crypto ecosystem, because anything built for on Aave is open source and can really push the development of the space generally. So summary of the program: we launched in May 2021, and it got overwhelming community support. I was on the other panel. It's quite clear that grants programs are really a critical piece of what to do with the DAO, with especially after a certain size, and it's probably one of the most obvious use cases of what to spend treasury money on. When you have hundreds of millions of dollars in assets, you want to spend on some way to grow and maintain the protocol, and build this ecosystem of contributors doing that. So the plan is to have a pilot program of 2 quarters that ends on November 10th, 2021. The budget that governance has given us is $1 million a quarter, and the hope is to expand that budget after we go back to governance with the work we've done so far. I think with the projects we're funded, there's definitely a case for a larger budget, especially if we need to support, I think, some of the events and some of the sort of sponsorship type work, which right now is being done by the Aave company. So yeah, look forward to that over the next few months. Our group right now is 9 reviewers, two staff members, one Bill, who's interesting. Like he actually posted threads when I did the initial community calls. He would post threads on these community calls, and really useful threads on what happened in the community call, and a summary of key activities in Aave. And so I just reached out to him saying, if he'd be interested in being a sort of content lead, and he's done a terrific job in terms of sort of having an Aave Grants DAO newsletter, and sort of growing the sort of Twitter community engagement beyond just what we had originally, to actually hosting community calls and in Twitter spaces with grantees and things like that. And then we also have Neil Shroff, who works on grant ops and ways to actually make the process much more efficient in terms of like the review speed, as well as the support to grantees after. And then we have Laura's help with the design of the POAPs. We redesigned the logo because we wanted a different branding from Aave, but something that was related. And so we actually used this team of ecosystem development to come up with that. And yeah, she's done a great job with that stuff. So the progress so far is about 37 grants. So this it's 29 until yesterday, where we just approved a set of 8 more that should come out soon. And a little over $1 million worth of grant awards. All this has not been distributed yet because these grants come in are milestone based, and so it's usually an initial upfront payment and then a payment after a completion of 1 or 2 milestones. If it's a really small grant, say below $5,000, in some cases we just make the payment upfront. But if it's a grant, say anything from 20 to 50, 60K, which is common, it's usually multiple milestones. And if it's a larger grant, we have few over $80,000, then it's typically over 3 payments: an initial payment, 1 milestone, and then the final payment. And we've typically awarded grants below 100K, and so anything between 100 and 500K we can technically approve according to our initial sort of governance proposal, but it would we'd like to get community sentiment on whether we should approve it or not. And so we'll put up a snapshot vote, get community sentiment. We actually did this for the DeFi app that there was this Aave mobile app that was going to be open sourced and built on the Aave repo. We went to the community and asked, basically if it makes sense funding this. I think it was about a $98,000 grant, and the community, overwhelmingly supported this. So we went ahead with it. But yeah, the idea is to pretty much support like any projects that really benefit the Aave ecosystem. The focus is on things that are can show some are realistic, are possible to actually do, and can show some some positive outcome for either Aave users or Aave governance, or just like processes for the DAO. So yeah, here are just a few examples of projects that have like actually shipped and launched and done well. Like on the left side, you have Flipside Crypto, which has built some cool analytics and building. They have this community enabled analytics system that I think has really helped with improving the sort of data accessibility for things that happen on Aave. We have Symphony Finance that provides like yield on limit orders and uses Aave to do that. Rabbit Hole had some cool tasks, sort of rewards for completion of tasks actually on Polygon. I think it was completed within a few hours or something like that. And so it was cool to see the demand for something like that. And on the right side, we have Gelato Network that basically built a really neat solution for to prevent Aave users from getting to these really costly liquidations, where they would, they'd have something unique on the smart contract side to adjust the positions to prevent those liquidations, which a huge value add for for Aave users. So yeah, these are a few examples. Like one of the things that we've been doing besides just the grant amount is actually supporting projects beyond just the dollar amount. So like, in some cases, if a project needs an auditor, we'll help and connect them to someone. If we definitely provide sort of marketing support in terms of featuring them in the newsletter and on Twitter, and on the governance forums. If they need an integration with the Aave protocol, we'll make an intro to someone from the Genesis team, as long as they have time, and making sure that we can prioritize something, a review of something or an integration wherever possible. And we're trying to grow that more. I think there's much more we can do, and we'd love to build some systems in place to just make that process really efficient and just take these projects to the next level. One other example of that is actually we found a DeFi Alliance to actually continue their accelerator program for 2 projects from the Aave ecosystems, and it would be really cool to take some projects that have come out of the grants program, especially at a nascent stage, to the next level with additional support and funding if needed, or specific sort of expertise type support. And the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive from the grantees. Like most of them have been quite happy with with of course the amount, but also like just the support in terms of the receptiveness of the grants group to the things they need and help they need. So it's great to see that. I think there's a lot more we can do, and a lot more we can set up to just make sure that the projects that we fund actually like not just execute, but also like achieve much more than they initially set out, even if that doesn't mean something that the initial scope of what was laid out with the grant, but just like build this group of people that will continue to return to Aave in some way, even if they temporarily don't. And so the idea is, as we get into, I'll go here first. So we get into the future of Aave Grants. Like the way I think about it is, we really want the current set of grantees to eventually like have a say in the approval of these future grants. And that's how we build this grants DAO, which is through the set of contributors. So if we right now have like 9 people reviewing grants, like we eventually want to have, we're setting up the processes, right? So that eventually it can actually scale to many more people having some sort of say on what grants get approved, ideally based on expertise and reputation. So for example, if there's a group we funded for sort of a risk management type thing, and we get a bunch of grant proposals on risk related projects, then it'd be cool for them to approve it. It'd be cool to have some sort of reputation weighted scoring for something like this, and slowly build out like the membership for the grants DAO, and the almost like I think of it as if the people who have a reputation in the Aave ecosystem, which is people who built for Aave, will have some rights over treasury spending power, which is kind of different from maybe the typical token holder vote, which will be dominated by investors who hold a lot of tokens, or the core teams. In this case, you could actually move to a case where treasury spending power is allocated more to people who are actually contributing and building and have a reputation in the protocol, which might be a different set of people, might overlap. And so that's how I'd think about it. I'd say that we want to build this group that will expand. It's right now 37 projects, but it will expand to 50 to hundreds of projects, and have some way that these folks can benefit from each other, can support and vet the new set of grants, and build this like cool sort of network that continues to help Aave and benefits themselves in terms of sort of their career crypto experience. just a little bit on some of the content work that we've done. Like we've published 15 issues of this newsletter, and it's actually a very cool way. I would say if you don't know anything about Aave, or even if you do, like I still find it useful that I'm quite involved with Aave, like to just get a sense of what's happening in the community. And Aave actually does a lot, which is something I love. Like it has a strong culture of bottom-up experimentation. There's of course the core like lending protocol, but there's so many other things happening in the Aave ecosystem, like Aave Arc, or the decentralized social network that's in the works, or sort of Aave deployment on Avalanche or other chains. And I think it's the Aave News is a cool way to track that, and it's written, Bill writes in quite a easy to access, like fun-friendly way. And so that's a cool way to, I think, start off just knowing what's happening in the Aave ecosystem. And we also give an overview of what's happening with the grants DAO and the grants that we've funded so far. The community calls happen once a month, and we do this on Twitter Spaces. We've found that actually to be quite useful because it gets a higher degree of participation, and it's cool at the end to answer some questions. We typically have an initial intro, and then I'll give an overview of some things that have happened in the grants DAO. Stani will chime in with generally what's happening at the Aave protocol. We'll have like Emilio or someone else from the dev team give a dev update. And then we'll just get into the community. And so, this could be proposals that have come out from contributors from the community. So this could be like a liquidity mining proposal, or a proposal for Aave to deploy in another chain. We might include, sort of say like, one of the folks from the Arbitrum team or Avalanche to chat about, why Aave should deploy there. And then we feature a bunch of grantees who have gotten funding or are still in the iteration phase, and just to learn more about what they're building and get questions from the community. And so I think the community calls are usually always quite energizing and give a good sense of what's happening with Aave. And we've also started these AMAs with grantees and with other community members, where this is separate from the main community call, but it's just getting a deeper dive into who the people are in the Aave ecosystem, and how we can actually get to know them better, and just again, like form connections between different people in the ecosystem, so that they can actually help each other and take what they're doing to the next level. Great. This is kind of all I had. Like this is sort of a summary of some of the projects were funded, but I'll stop there, and like happy to take any questions if there are any. If not, we can sort of move on.
Shreyas, this was awesome. There's a couple of questions around just sort of your learnings from the past few months. So I think you kind of talked about the new plan, but maybe it'd be good to dig into sort of what you did to come up with this new plan. Like how'd you go about getting feedback from all the other grant programs out there? What did you learn in terms of like how things were set up for everybody else, and some of the lessons learned? And could you just walk us through some of that decision-making process and how you think the changes you've adopted are going to help address some of those existing issues?
Yeah, sure. So I think in terms of like the next evolution of grants, it's still definitely like in the works, and like where this is like, I would say it's still a work in progress. But like I've spoken a bunch with Ken from Unigrants, as well as Larry from Compound, and they've been great in terms of sharing their lessons learned. And I think there's a lot of similarities between our grants programs and some differences, I think, just based on the way that Aave operates. And so I think the way I've gone about it is like thinking through the sort of talking to projects and seeing like what's actually helped them and what's not, and things that they sort of value and appreciate, and ways that that can be improved. And so one of those things is definitely like the post grant support in terms of like having projects with doing things like sort of getting auditors or getting connected with the Aave Genesis team when needed, or just someone like some of these are really young teams and have no sort of social capital in the ecosystem, and so just like bridging that gap where we can. And right now it's been sort of done like really personal on a one-on-one type basis, but I think there's definitely scope to systematize that and make sure that we actually actively reach out to projects even before they do, with asking them for the help they need. And then I think the next like evolution of it's going to be a process and it might take some time, but slowly, like I think giving some of the existing grantees like who are interested in doing it like more of a say in what's happening with Aave Grants. I think that's really crucial, just to make sure that they're still involved. Like these are folks who have clearly signaled that they want to do something for the Aave ecosystem, and they a bunch of them have, and they've successfully completed something, and so we don't want them to go away. Like we want them to continue to do that, and there's some way we can incentivize them to stay in the ecosystem and continue to support. Like I think that would be great. Of course, like first with their projects, and with maintaining what they built, or having a way that that they can transition to other groups who can do the maintenance. It's of course like helpful that all this is open source, so that makes it a little easier. But there are cases, of course, where a project's built and then something goes stale after a few months because the original team sort of isn't there. But yeah, the goal is to make sure that these projects continue to engage with Aave after the initial grant, and I think having them have a say in the future grantees is one really cool way to do that.
No, that's really awesome. I think one thing you touched on, and this is kind of one of the very kind of common themes, is post grant support, and you already kind of brought it up. Like, what are some of the challenges here, and sort of obviously as you're giving out grants more actively, it can kind of go from 10 teams to 100 very fast. How do you think about structuring the grants program, or even the staff, to actually position everybody to get the help?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of them is marketing and just ways, like I said, like some of these projects, like they might be an anon project, or someone with like very very little social capital, and they might build something really cool, but they actually need users, and they need the Aave community to be aware that they built this. And so we really try to make sure we push that. So we'll invite them to the community call. We'll definitely share on Twitter, both in terms of the Grants DAO account, as well as personally, all of us. And then when they launch, we'll try to make a governance forum post. We'll try to make intros where possible. So I've introed a bunch of teams to other protocols where needed. And so yeah, it's sort of the personal help, but I would say just helping use some of the social capital that we have to make sure that really interesting projects get the attention they deserve. And what's great about the crypto ecosystem is that everyone's really, really receptive to this, and it's definitely early enough days where right. everyone's down to sort of try actually take a chance on someone relatively new. So I'd say marketing is one. The other ones I would say are more they sort of differ by projects. So few projects have asked for help with getting auditors. I think few projects have asked just for sort of technical sort of smart contract architecture type review, and having someone getting connected to someone who can do that. A lot of times it is, I would say, getting connected to XYZ person, either from the Aave Genesis team, or from like sort of outside, and yeah, helping them with that. But yeah, there's more we can do, and I think it would be good to like come up with one like sort of survey Aave grant members, but also yeah, just come up with a like, hey, like these are actually like 3 to 4 things we should like just do as a default for all projects, and then if there's something additional we can explore it case by case.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess, does that mean this is how the RFPs are set up for Aave grants? Like who comes up with what is important or should be funded or we want to work on? And what's kind of the process of prioritizing or getting something on that list?
Yeah, so we've sourced that list from one, the sort of Aave community, basically the governance forum and things that come up in the Telegram group. And so, we sort of source it from there. We source it from the Aave team. There's a bunch of things that, they might want to build that they don't have time to build. And it's, we'd love like the community to engage with building that. As we speak to a bunch of these projects, like there are ideas that come up that we have that might, sort of direct, like, that might just like help an existing sort of integration or something like that, and we would put that up. But I'd say that the top ones right now listed are a governance front end on Aave that's open sourced and built in the Aave repo. That's something that's high priority that we're looking for. Basically a simpler UI for like anyone. Right now, if you're technical, it's relatively easy. If you're not technical, it's not straightforward to actually make a governance proposal, and so make it easier to do that. The second one is like a developers DAO that we're hoping to wrap up soonish, but actually have a team of developers work directly for Aave protocol that work on some of the core development, but also like some of like offload some of the work like reviewing governance proposals or things like that. And yeah,
what the DAO is, so the developer DAO is super interesting actually. So how do you kind of set something like that up, and sort of how do you, in a way, if you were to look at it as like a chart, like I hate to say the word org chart, but like if you look at it that way, what is sort of like the setup here of who's responsible for what and which organization manages what?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think we have it figured out, but like the idea is to it's like there will be a team lead and like maybe 5 to 6 other people. So the team lead, I think, will work full time. 5 to 6 other people will work part time. I think they in the beginning, like Aave Grants DAO should have like pretty much like what one Corbin from our team has been leading the process, and either him or like someone else should have like some type of monitoring of what's happening with the developers DAO. And of course, the developers DAO should be quite transparent with the work they're doing with the Aave community. So I'd say like some of these structures, they start off maybe with, especially when they're seeded by the Grants DAO, where I wouldn't say, I'm not gonna say like sort of hierarchical the Grants DAO, but more that we at least take some ownership over monitoring what's happening and making sure that if there's a bunch of funds in the multi-sig, it's besides having something like Tally certified, we also have like some human monitoring of what's happening and make sure there's reporting to the governance forum and things like that. But I think eventually, like the pathway is like these, you have these like sub DAOs that come out of Aave Grants, but then Aave Grants DAO, but eventually if they're successful, they just get directly funded from the treasury and report to Aave DAO, and there's a mechanism to do that. And maybe you see like these, you see dozens of these DAOs that can actually like they coordinate on some level, that can function independently to some degree, but are able to report to governance and continue that way. But yeah, I think the structure of this like is still TBD in terms of what works. I think we need to experiment with it, and I don't, especially with the larger projects, like there hasn't been too much of this, and so it's cool for us to like pioneer something like this. But there'll be some mistakes along the way, and we can change the exact structuring of this as we go.
Absolutely, and I think we kind of just, this is going to be a recurring theme in most of our talks here today, which is it is a pretty massive experiment we're doing at scale, and there's so much that we're trying to figure out as we kind of go through it too. So we'll take some time, but given that this came out in May of this year, and it feels like forever, and you've already given out close to $1 million in grants, it's just incredible that we've made so much progress already. I want to also give a special shout out to Bill on the chat, who's been really been incredible at answering all these questions. And for those of you who are interested in learning more, especially about what's happening in the Aave ecosystem, be sure to subscribe to aavenews.substack.com, because that does cover all the great things that are happening. And I know we're getting, I do want to ask a handful of other questions, but I feel like it'll probably take away from another talk that you have in about an hour, which is on how do you actually successfully receive a grant from the Aave DAO committee. So we'll save some of those questions for that. In the meantime, I want to thank Shreyas for that amazing overview, and we'll move on to our next talk. So thanks, Shreyas, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, Karthik. All right.